Welcome to Mocktails and Masterpieces with the Indianapolis Chamber Orchestra. Today's episode is sponsored by Anthony Team Realty. Hello and good evening. I'm Dana Stone, the Executive Director of the Indianapolis Chamber Orchestra, and I'm here today with some very special guests as we approach our final concert of our 40th season, New World, a collaborative performance with Dance Kaleidoscope and a Crystal DeHaan Legacy concert. I'm going to kind of start us around the horn as we all introduce ourselves. And I'm going to start with Andrés Lopera, who is our guest conductor for this concert. And we're so excited to have him join us. Andrés, if you could take a minute to introduce yourselves to our audience.
Of course, Dana. Hello, everybody. Buenos dias or hola. My name is Andrés. I am very excited to get to meet your community and have the privilege to conduct the Indianapolis Chamber Orchestra. Especially, it's very exciting to have always the collaboration with dance because it brings to the visual so many beautiful things that are in the music, and we're in great hands for that. So I'm very excited.
And hi, I'm Joshua Blake Carter. I'm the Crystal DeHaan Artistic Director here at Dance Kaleidoscope. This is my first season with the company, so my first collaboration with the Indianapolis Chamber Orchestra. Super excited. I mean, for any dancer, it's always such a thrill to dance with live music. There's just nothing quite like it. And I know how much our audiences really love and appreciate that marriage of when live music and dance meet each other. So very excited about this upcoming concert, and we've got some good dance for people to see.
Hi, everyone. My name is Stuart Lewis. I am the Associate Artistic Director and Director of Community Engagement for Dance Kaleidoscope. This is my 10th year with the organization. This month, actually, I'm celebrating my 10th anniversary. I was a dancer with the company for 9 years and then was made the Associate Artistic Director in 2021. I have so enjoyed these collaborations with the Chamber Orchestra in years past. I was a dancer in both of the previous iterations of this concert, and I'm so thrilled to be choreographing one of the pieces on this evening's program.
Thank you all so much. And Stuart, I think you're the only one that's been here for all of our collaborations. I know that this started in 2019 as sort of a conversation in the hallway of, hey, we should all do something together. And what came from it was a really beautiful production. I've seen images from it with Rhapsody in Blue, I believe, was kind of the anchor of that performance. And then we were like, let's do it again. And then COVID happened. And so it got pushed back a couple more years into 2022, but that one was also a beautiful collaboration with Drew Peterson at the piano from the American Pianist Awards, and many other beautiful performances. After that performance, we kind of sat down, Stuart and Kim and I, and talked about, okay, what's next? You know, we knew David was retiring so before we would have another collaboration. And Stuart, immediately you were excited about the Dvorak New World Symphony. So please tell me about the evolution of the choreography and all of that.
Yeah, I definitely saw an open door and just decided to walk through it. The New World Symphony has been a piece that I have always been drawn to since the very first time I heard it when I was a young child in Virginia. And I first had the instinct to choreograph to it when I was in college, but just knew that I liked the music. Really didn't know anything about what I wanted to say with the choreography. It wasn't until the pandemic when I rediscovered the symphony and frankly was listening to it very, very frequently during lockdown that I really began to fall in love with it again. And my idea for how I wanted to shape it into a dance really started to take form. And it was actually our artistic director, David Hochoy, artistic director emeritus, David Hochoy, who I first talked about this. And David has always been so supportive of me. But one of the things that he said was, "You're going to do the whole symphony? It's so long." And so I was like, well, okay, it is a little bit longer than a usual dance piece. So what is a way that I could make sure the audience enjoys the fact that it's a little bit longer? And then it just dawned on me, live music. Of course, it has to be performed with live music. So when this opportunity to collaborate with the Chamber Orchestra once again came up, I said, this is an opportunity for me to try and make this dream come true. And I'm so grateful that Dana and Matthew were able to make it happen. And so that was really the start of how this whole concert sort of came to be, was the New World Symphony and the piece that I've wanted to choreograph for so long. But then in thinking about the rest of the evening, we were thinking, well, what would be a good companion piece for the New World Symphony? And I said, okay, well, obviously the New World Symphony is very big. It's going to have a full cast. What is something that could be a nice contrast to that? And I knew that we had the Afternoon of a Faun in our existing repertory. David Hochoy choreographed that in 2006 for 4 dancers. It's a beautiful piece, but a very, very different feel than the New World Symphony. And so I thought that those two would really sort of contrast each other nicely, and that would be a great companion piece. And then, of course, when Joshua joined us, it felt only right that Joshua would be represented on the program. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that over to Joshua and let Joshua talk about what he is bringing to the program.
Yeah, well, thanks, Stuart. And Stuart was a huge help in me selecting the music. Anybody who's seen our shows since I've been here knows I had an eclectic music style choice. I don't know what you want to say, but we've done everything from Brandy Carlisle to, German house DJs. I mean, I like kind of the run of the gamut. So I said to Stuart, I said, will you help me look at the catalog that you sent, Dana? You sent me your music catalog, and Stuart's like, okay, knowing who you are now, I'm going to pick out 4 or 5 pieces that I think you're going to like. And I immediately, as soon as I turned on Adagio for Strings, the Samuel Barber piece, I knew that was it. And it's interesting because I heard something so different than I think what people associate with that piece. I had no idea that it was, when I first listened to it, how people associated it with death and with mourning. And I did a lot of research about, the different times it was played. And so many of our, people we've lost, big famous people like Princess Grace of Monaco, and John F. Kennedy, and all of these people, it was played for different in memoriam services and things like that. So I really I've decided to not totally go that route of making it sad. I don't think it has to be sad, and it can be more celebratory about, I'm calling it To Meet Again. And so it's really about that idea of perhaps you did lose someone, but then what if you got a second chance to see them again? And so that's where we're going. And it's an intimate pas de deux, just 2 dancers, and just really excited to bring it to the stage.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Andres, please share some of your thoughts about dance and orchestra. I know that you have conducted for dance before, so maybe start with that and share a little bit about what you're looking forward to about this collaboration.
Well, there's a couple of things. First, I'm excited to just be in Indiana because from Colombia, just getting to know the orchestras in the state, and now working with Richmond Symphony Orchestra, it's been great to be able to now come and do this partnership with you all. And what I love about the program, and not only in dancing, but like musically, it gives you a journey, right? And in the journey, we see 3 specific like stops. One being the Debussy Prelude to the Afternoon of a Faun. This is sort of like mystical, sort of mysterious, abstract place where like a lot of things are happening and really lives in the idealistic mind. It's very French texture, and you're gonna feel it how the air in the melodies happen. It's not something as concrete that I'm sure something will be like that is represented in the music. The Samuel then Barber for Strings is something so um, gives you this perspective of like now in humanity and real, not mystical, but human deep emotions that connects you with the barber, being that mourning or being some sort of like introspection on some sort of like different excitement. This piece will really give you that moment to jump from like the fantasy world to a little bit more of a personal, of an introspective journey. And now that's an American composer. And we will finish with Dvorak New World Symphony, which I'm also very intrigued with Stuart. I'm going to be looking forward to see how he's going to bring this to life. But in talking about the length of the choreography and the length of the piece itself, more than as a lengthy, I will describe it as a journey. Like every symphonic piece as a symphony work has all usually have four movements, and in each one of these movements is going to be a little bit of a change of narrative, because it as the music evolves, everything evolves with it. Dvorak New World Symphony is particularly close to me. Knowing like the Dvorak is a Czech composer that immigrated to the New World, to here in the United States to compose this, not just anywhere in the New World, like like the United States part of it. And that he came here to be the teacher of the conservatory, the National Conservatory in composition, and that he got to create this very specific sound that is starting to be like identified like the national sound, like how is the music of these orchestras, and then people get so personal with it. So you're gonna hear places like in the second movement that is a theme used known as spiritual that is going home. And then the third movement is very much like with indigenous type of like rhythms, even though it's very nice and exciting. And the last movement, it starts sounding like Jaws, the movie at the beginning. But then after the end, you'll see this voice in this incredible melody. So I'm sure I just cannot wait to see from not from a purely sound perspective, but like to see it in dancing, especially how dancing just like is so beautiful and defies physics. Even I don't know how some dancers seems to be suspended in the air. Uh, so we are looking forward to put those two beautiful art forms together.
We are too. I have to say, I think the biggest drawback that I always hear Matthew say is he doesn't really get to see the dance, and you won't either, unfortunately, until after the fact, unless you have eyes behind you, which I don't know. And Stuart, what? Oh, what? When you consider the choreography, I'm sure you've broken it up also into the movements. What has been some of the inspirations that you drew when kind of building this massive work into this collaborative performance?
Sure. And I love what Andres just said about the piece being a journey, because in terms of the content or the intention behind my choreography, there is a little bit of a narrative. It follows one dancer throughout the entire symphony, and that dancer is meant to symbolize an artist. And the whole piece is supposed to be that artist's journey towards self-actualization. The first movement is very much about the artist discovering their art. I know that for myself, in my experience, I tried many things before I found dance. Some things I was good or okay at, some things I was quite bad at. And then I found dance, I found that passion for myself. And that was really when I started to recognize that as a part of myself that I had discovered. And then through the second movement, the artist encounters a character that I refer to as the muse. And that's where the artist really encounters that inspiration, that idea of why they do what they do, what draws them to this art. That third movement is where the artist encounters their teachers, where the artist really learns the technique and the form of the craft of whatever that artist may be. And then the fourth movement is really meant to symbolize that final product that artist has sort of culminated in, that self-realized artist. So the artist really goes on a journey throughout the course of those four movements. And I think that it's just so great that Andres just said that. And then as he was talking, I was like, wow, that's exactly what the piece is in terms of its visuals, is it follows the journey of one dancer from start to finish. So that was really great. In terms of the movement itself, I was sort of trying to do two things. As Andres also said, I was very sensitive to the inspirations behind the symphony musically, in terms of its relationship with indigenous music and the music of Negro spirituals. And so I was actually able to receive a grant from the Indianapolis Foundation to travel to Washington, D.C., then New York, and then take a train from New York City to Iowa, just like Dvorak did right before he premiered the symphony. And And while I was on this trip, I did a lot of studying, a lot of museum visits, especially in Washington, D.C. And in New York, especially the Museum of the American Indian and the African American History Museum, just to really just immerse myself in a culture that I really don't know a whole lot about. Not that in any way that I want to try and depict these cultures at all, but just have a learning opportunity for myself and let that information that I learned just sort of be always just sort of in the background as I am creating the movement and thinking about this journey towards actualization that I want the artist to go on. But then also, as Andres mentioned, the sort of wanting to create American sound, I knew that I wanted the technique of this piece in terms of its choreography to be rooted in American modern dance, because that's really one of the things that America has contributed to the dance world as a whole is modern dance. When you think about these people like Martha Graham, Merce Cunningham, Jose Lamone, Paul Taylor, these are people in the dance world that really have created what Americans know as American modern dance. And I wanted the vocabulary of the choreography to very much be rooted in that tradition. And so that's been really fun for me to get to experiment with that as well.
It's incredibly exciting. I really can't wait to experience it. We have a short excerpt from our performance in 2022 from the Music Moves concert. And this is the Kilar Orawa, and a little short excerpt. So we're going to shoot it back to 2022. Wow, that brings back some wonderful memories of our most recent collaboration, and of course, looking forward to the premiere of this production on May 17th. But there's another piece on the program that we haven't talked about yet, and I'm going to pass it over to Andres to talk about that. It's one of my favorite maybe not the overture is my favorite, but the opera is actually one of my favorites. So Andres, please share some more.
How am I gonna share about your favorite opera?
Well, it's not my favorite, but I'm a big Mozart fan.
No, but of course, in a great concert, you have one of the greatest composers of all, which is Mozart. We're gonna do the overture of the Magic Flute that also just kind of help us go in these bridges from the mystical to the human, and it also gives the audience a chance to hear the orchestra, also just like the sound, and present this as a collaboration between both genres and both organizations, which is very beautiful.
And I would like to have the DK folks, and I don't care which of you answers this question, but let's talk about collaboration, because I think, you know, you were talking offline about how, you know, it really is a collaborative approach to programming, and it's tricky, right? Because we all have this is how we typically do things. So let's address kind of the not necessarily the challenges, but how we come to determining repertoire and making things happen artistically, because the audience really just sees the final product.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start, and Stuart, you can pop in, but you know, I've said many times, I think collaboration is what's going to help the survival of all arts organizations, because we're all really, you know, in a space where audience development is super important, and sharing and showing each of our audiences that these other organizations in our community exist. You know, and I'm going to be so mainstream poppy here for a second, but there's a moment on the new Beyonce album where Willie Nelson talks about, you know, sometimes you may not know what you like, and then your friend brings you to it. Your friend introduces you to it, and you find out, wait, that's really cool. I really do like this, and I would never have done it if I had not, you know, if this person hadn't shown it to me. And I think that that's what we can do for each other as organizations is, you know, somebody goes, well, I love DK, but maybe I don't always go see something with, you know, the chamber orchestra. And they come and they become, you know, a subscriber to you, and vice versa. You know, both things happen. So I think that's what's really exciting about the collaboration. I love that it's something that has become sort of a, you know, a tradition, or a thing that we do every few years. Because as I mentioned earlier, you know, we hear all the time how much our audiences love live music, so that when we can collaborate and make it beneficial for both, I think that it really serves us. And, you know, as Stuart said before, I mean, I love that he did walk through that door when he was presented with that opportunity of like, well, what's next? What do we do next? And, you know, he said, New World. And I love that it's something that's really in the chamber orchestra's repertoire. You know, it's something that you all, you know, do and play, and the artists, from what I understand, you know it very, very well. But, you know, moving forward, I mean, Dana, I think back to when we first met, and we were sitting at the, you know, at Cafe Patachu, and we were talking about what do we do in the future? And I think there's just so much opportunity there's, you know, all of the contemporary composers, and there's just so many things that we can do and explore. And yeah, I think that this collaboration's gotta keep going. But Stuart, do you want to talk at all about the collaborative part of, you know, picking music and how that all comes to be? Besides, we know how you got to New World, but
Sure. I think that once we knew we had New World and Afternoon of a Faun, I think we definitely turned it over to, and obviously the Barber, I think we turned it over to Dana and Matthew and said, you know, that we not from a programmatic, but just from a logistical standpoint, we need another piece of music. Dancers need to change costumes. They need a break. We need to sort of like reset and go into the next mood of this next piece. What do you all think would be a great, you know, piece to put in that's really going to help round out the program? And I'm, you know, I love music. I have an affinity for music, but I'm by no means a musical expert. I wouldn't have gone to Mozart in 1,000 years. And I love that the experts behind music did go to Mozart. And so I thought that was really exciting, and does round out the program so beautifully. Josh, while you were speaking, this is so silly, but you know, go with me on this journey for a second. When thinking about the relationship between between DK and the chamber orchestra and sort of creating this concert, it sort of reminds me of the relationship with my husband and how we're sort of right now thinking about buying a new house. Because I think that we both have to have things that are needs for us, like things that we must have as we look for this new house, and then things that we want. And then we sort of maybe create that list together. And I think that's really important when we think about the collaborative nature of the relationship in these two organizations. You know, our two organizations need specific things to make our programs, you know, what, according to the values of our organizations, what they need to be. And then, yes, we have things that we want, but then we can find those things together. And as long as we are sensitive and respectful of the things that each organization needs, then of course, you know, it's going to be an absolute dynamite performance. And so I just think that we found a really special formula for our two organizations to put this together. And it's so exciting for it to be in its third iteration.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think there's really nothing better. I know you mentioned it earlier, Josh, that live music and dance, like that's how it was meant to be experienced. And for me, it's a culminating moment when we see how music can be woven into other disciplines. Even with pieces like this that were not necessarily written to be for dance. And I think that's an exciting thing. Andres, can you talk a little bit about collaborations? I know that you are with Richmond and several other orchestras. Have you done a collaboration like this with another arts organization in the past?
Kind of similar. Okay, so first we did. I was with Boulder Philharmonic when they were doing Appalachian Spring with aerial dancers. So that was something interesting. Um, you don't want to see somebody falling from the sky, but what I love, I really do love and tend to say that that's sort of like my last name, collaborations. I love collaborations. I think every art form kind of like explore some of your senses specifically. You know, music is sound. Something visual is more like all of our senses come attracted by the art. So, but they don't all work independently. They all can work together into creating a more like impact within one body, that being the audience, and letting people come and experience both senses and all of the what different artists are bringing to us. This collective, I think is kind of exciting. And oh yes, I'm here in my sixth season with Columbus Symphony as the associate conductor, and this is my first season as music director in Richmond. So I love doing different collaborations, even like we do it with the art museum when we bring like different paintings into the room in regards to like specific pieces. So I just love that um, we are all humans, and arts bring us to that humanity, and being an artist, the art enhance that experience. So when you put two and two together, it's even more impactful.
Thank you so much. Yes. And thank you all for sharing your time with us today. If you would like tickets for New World, they are available online at icomusic.org. Not a ton of tickets left for Sunday. And maybe by the time this airs, there won't be tickets for Sunday. So I hope you're on that. But that being said, we have a fabulous audience for all three performances and can't wait to experience this beautiful music with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Dana. We're excited.
Yes.